Hey there, Skullheads. I'm Snags.
And I'm Ol Silky.
And before we start this episode, Silky's going to pimp some stuff for us.
So we've got a website, and on that website, each episode features a playlist. There will be a playlist for tonight's episode. We also have merch, mugs, stickers, hoodies, T-shirts, 3 different designs. Father's Day is coming up next June. Arbor Day, Flag Day, Christmas. Next Christmas, so you could plan like a
Easter,
2-parter.
MLK Day.
Easter.
Yeah,
Um,
you got to buy the merch.
yeah, jump
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
get you a T-shirt and a sticker.
It's a print-on-demand service, and even in that context, it's almost all sold out. So you got to jump in there and get it now, because
hot cakes, hot cakes,
flying out the door.
Yeah.
So so for tonight's episode, we're interviewing singer Bernadette Seacrest, and she's a singer in a genre she has dubbed swing-noir, which I saw that on one of her website or article or something. Swing-noir. I thought, now that's bad.
I like that. I kind of connotated torch song, very Billie Holiday, Squirrel Nut Zippers meets Mazzy Star, just very just elegant jazz, West Side Story, just all these images as I listen
with
to
a little bit of punk rock edgy.
Maybe a dirty dog up in Brooklyn, with extra mustard.
There you go. Yeah. Sure. All right. So
right.
She's also what I call an expert life liver. She's got a lot of really cool stories from growing up. So unlike
kind of the Forrest Gump of the rock
scene. You go. Yeah.
So many moments.
If Forrest Gump was a cool chick with tattoos, then
right,
that would be her. Yeah. So unlike some of the other musicians we've interviewed, we're going to start early and just kind of go through her whole life, because she's got some stories. She's got to write a book at some point for sure. According to her bio on our website, she spent her childhood in California and New York, studying classical dance with Los Angeles Ballet, San Francisco Ballet, and American Ballet Theater until an injury kind of sidelined that. What happened? Just out of curiosity, what was the injury all about? And were you planning on being like a professional ballerina?
I was, but I quit when I was young. I was, like 14 or 15. My timeline stuff is really wacky because we moved all the time. And so when I think about, like when I was trying to think about what am I going to talk about on this show, and thinking about all the shit that has happened in my life, timelines are super messed up for me. So I was around 14 and I got a knee injury. I studied very seriously, so I was dancing like between 3 and 5 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Were you studying like Fosse or Alvin Ailey? What kind
of classical ballet?
This is Silky pretending he's a dance expert.
I know dance. I know dance.
Yeah, it was just studying ballet like lots of other girls, but I was super serious about it, and it was the love of my life. And, I'll say that I didn't fall in love with anything again until I was 35 and started music. So I had all those years to just be a fucked up, crazy whack job.
Yeah. So you moved all around because of military parents or wanted by the CIA?
Bipolar mother.
Oh, so you have that in common with me and Silky. We have bipolar mother.
Our mothers we're on the same Afghan knitting club
Yeah.
thing.
There you go.
This is.
Well, I can be part of the
Have
club.
we told the story on this podcast yet, Silky, about how your mother was convinced that you were the love child of her and John Lennon? Have we
no.
ever
So
mentioned that?
1980, December 8th. The world is told that John Lennon has died. My mother wakes me up in tears, devastated, telling me my father has died.
Oh my God!
Yeah, real smooth.
Whack job.
And
Oh
in my I don't know, in 1980, I was 9 maybe. I am like, who are we talking about? Because I'm like, and she's like, John Lennon has been shot. I was a huge Beatles fan. And I'm like, okay, so how is John Lennon my father? And she just went into Julian and all this, it was very disturbing. And it's not a time of cell phones. So I can't even call my dad to just see if he's okay. So there's a very traumatic.
Yeah. Huge.
So,
what a thing to say to a 9-year-old kid.
And years would go by where she would bring up Julian and that I haven't have I talked with him, and I would just be like, get out.
So you really do have a crazy mom like that. So you get it. People don't get it.
We were both raised by just flat out of control hippies, and that's part of why we ended up being friends. But
that's why we're this awesome.
Yeah,
I will say.
That's why what?
That's why we're this awesome.
Yeah.
Despite all that,
I know, right? We had to get something from it.
Yeah, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
That's right. It's true.
So your bio also says you came of age amidst the New York and LA early 80s punk scenes. So
yep.
I've got a lot of notes here just from talking to you, and the earliest note I have is the Muir brothers from Suicidal Tendencies and the whole Dogtown skateboard scene. But I don't want to dictate where we start. Do you want to start with that, or do you have anything else that bridges the gap between the ballet era and when you started hanging out with Suicidal Tendencies, which is quite the switch in music genres?
I did not hang out with Suicidal Tendencies. A foster home that I lived in were the Dunnigans, and they were the first guys to start with the Muir brothers, or Mike, I should say. And so I was 14. I had just quit ballet. I'm living in this foster home of these wonderful people who help fucked up kids. And the brothers, Sean and Mike, were older than I was. And they were, this was in Venice. And so it was like 70, I don't know, 78, 79, something like that. And it was wild in a lot of ways. I come from the cuckoo home. So being in a stable environment was really cool. It was a great fit for me. And they were a trip. They turned me on to Van Halen. I know you guys like Van Halen. Just a little bit. Yeah. So, it was fun living there, and, I got in trouble, of course, but, they were wild. They were musicians. I did a little research of my own because I don't think about this stuff. I don't. It's like old history. I don't think about it. So I was like, I wonder whatever happened to those guys. They're both dead. The brothers, which is sad. And I didn't know that both of them were in Suicidal Tendencies. I only thought Mike was.
Maybe I don't. That's too. One band I don't know everything about. So
Mike,
I don't know.
Mike Muir is still in the band.
I bet it's his band.
Yeah. No, but I thought who's dead? Who?
The Dunnigans.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
And Mike is also the Dunnigan and Mike Muir. So, the time that I dated briefly Jim Muir was many years later. So it was bizarre. I, was in this foster home, and then years later, I'm living in San Francisco, and I dated Jim very briefly. He had just he became a partner in Thrasher, the company,
Skateboard company.
and he was one of the original
Yeah.
Dogtown
Yeah.
guys.
That's
But like I was a super nerd, and I was very awkward looking, and just I went to 15 different schools, so I was always the new girl, and it's just kind of how it was. And so I had a little skateboard. I'd skate to the bus stop to go to ballet class, and they would hawk loogies into my hair,
Oh my
and
God.
just kind of torment
Bastards.
me.
The other kids?
That wasn't fun.
The other kids?
Yeah, the cute surfer boys who
Oh,
were the dog guys.
wow.
Yeah,
I can't
I got
imagine
loogies in my
spitting on a
hair.
girl, let alone
This is California. Now I don't know where you are, Silky, but it's
Florida.
different.
Yeah.
It's different here in the South than California
Oh, yeah.
was. The Southern boys are fabulous. I married one. He's my favorite husband.
Awesome.
Yeah, the hawk and loogies. I never. Oh, there's a
That's
girl. I'm gonna go hawk a
That's
loogie in her hair. I just don't get it. But anyway.
I'd have to
Yeah.
beat the brakes off of that guy.
Yeah.
Would have to skateboard across the head or something.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, it was a trip.
you were there for a while, and then tell me if I have the timeline right. So you're in Venice with the Foster family, then you end up in New York for a while before you go back out to LA. Is that correct?
Let's see. No, I think I went to San Francisco, and then I went back to Venice. I really, really, really literally moved like every 9
Wait.
months. So, like on average.
When did you end up at the whole danceteria scene?
I was about 18 or 19, so that would have been like 82, 83.
So,
I ended up, after going back and forth to
right.
San Francisco
Mhm.
and LA, Venice,
Right.
and Kansas City, and Houston, Texas.
Right. So
There's a very fruitful time across the country. If you think about all the places she's going,
yeah,
so many scenes were popping up
yeah.
all around
They
the
were.
country right in that time frame. It's amazing if you just look at all the sprouts coming up
Yeah.
on a map.
It was really cool. I got to be there.
Mm.
Like I went to I guess I don't know. I ended up in New York. I was 17, and I never felt like I really fit anywhere. Like I never felt like I was with my people. And I got to New York, and I got an apartment on 6th and C down in the Village, and I felt like I had found my people.
You had arrived.
That's it. Really, I can't even tell you. Like Venice was great in a lot of ways, but I never really connected, I guess.
Mhm.
And so when I got to New York, it was like, wow, this is fucking amazing.
New York, there was nobody hawking loogies in your hair. I'm just gathering.
That's right. There were not. Yeah, I really felt like
That's gonna haunt me for a long time. I just
well, I'm a better person for it.
So okay, so you're in New York, and that this is the danceteria scene, and so if people don't know, tell us, for our listeners who don't know, who haven't read the Beastie Boys book like Silky and I do, what was danceteria?
Yeah, this is mainly for
you lived
European.
You lived it. Yeah.
Okay.
But this story is going out to our European crowd who don't really know New York.
Okay, sure.
I got it. I hear what you're saying.
Anyways, for people who don't know what danceteria was, hip us to that scene. Kind of what that was.
Oh, it was super fun. I mean, it was just a blast. Danceteria was like one of the first clubs that I recall. Like I think that they made all these other big fabulous clubs after Danceteria, but I don't quote me.
Mm.
It was like 3 or 4 stories. It was in a funky part of town. I can't remember exactly where, but everybody, the scene back then was tiny. It was tiny. And everybody knew everybody. So you'd have bands come over from Germany and from England all the time. Like, you could walk in and Nick Cave would be on stage playing.
Wow.
And on one floor, and then you go to another floor and there's some fabulous DJ,
Sure.
but everybody it was the beginning of everything.
Yeah.
So it was just like
that's the evolution of hip hop right there.
Yes.
I remember.
Yes.
Wow.
So that
I remember hearing that on the License to Ill tour, the Beastie Boys opened for Madonna, and I always thought that was such a weird combination. Then you read their book; they were pals over at Danceteria. They knew each other.
Yeah. They all hung out. Yeah. She got big and said, "Oh my God, I know these three cats that would just be." Yeah. And when the Beastie Boys went on that tour, Madonna's got this huge stage, all these fans, and they're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, who are these
massive stage to run around on?
Yeah. Little boys.
Yeah, little boys with they didn't have a huge setup, so the stage,
Yeah, that's very weird playing shows like that.
It had to feel like a novelty act opening for Madonna,
Yeah.
So tell us about, did you meet the Beastie Boys during that period? Did you ever run into them?
I did. They were very sweet. I didn't hang out with them. My roommate, I had a lot of really great roommates, and they all had great friends, and she was good friends with them. So I've met them, but I didn't hang out with them.
Right.
So all my stories are like that. Like I have a few friends, like I dated Eric, and Wayne was a friend of mine from Sisters of Mercy, and
oh wow.
Steve, the drummer from Flipper, when I lived in San Francisco, he was a friend of mine. So, but all my roommates were super cool, and they had better stories than me.
Right. You can tell us your roommate stories too, if you want. We're down for the whole thing. So you met the Beastie Boys, and they were sweet. So they weren't like, chucking beer cans in your face or.
No, they weren't. They were sweet. They were young. I don't know how old they are, but I kind of feel like they're my age or maybe a little older.
They are.
I'm 50. I'm 58. So
yeah, I'd say they're right at where you're at.
Metallica. Here's a piece of my Metallica story.
Okay.
When I was working, so I'm in New York, and I really was super fortunate. All my life, I've had people that have taken me under their wing and taken care of me and given me opportunities all my life. So I'm working at this cool ass she punk rock S&M store, and all the stars shop there, and like I said, the scene was small, so there wasn't a lot going on. So they would come to us and blah, blah, blah. And one of the girls who worked for me brought in a cassette one day of Metallica. And I don't know, her boyfriend was some famous guy in some famous punk rock band. I can't remember. But she got a hold of, I guess maybe it was a bootleg.
No Life to Leather. It was probably the No Life to Leather demos, right?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Well, would this have been around 1982?
1982.
So we're talking about the No Life Till Leather demo, which is pretty historic.
Yeah.
It's the demo that got them signed.
And she brought it in, and she was like, "You gotta hear this band. It's amazing." And I remember thinking, God, I've never heard anything like this, and I loved it right away.
Mm-hmm,
and so that's my little.
Did you know Michael Alago?
No.
He was like an A&R guy that was very crucial in getting Metallica signed. And there's a documentary on Michael Alago, but he was right there where you were and in all those scenes. And his documentary, he talks about CBGB's, Dance to all these,
Yeah.
So he would have been a short dude, Hispanic with a leather jacket. I know that clears it up right away.
Now, are you sure you didn't know him?
Yeah. But yeah, that would have been the No Life Till Leather tape. That's
pretty cool.
amazing.
So was
Cool.
that boutique you worked at? Is that the one where Jimmy Page came in? All right.
Yes.
So tell us that one.
Which blew my mind. He came in, and I hate to say this because Led Zeppelin was like my all-time favorite
They're
band.
unmatched, phenomenal, one of those once-in-a-lifetime bands. Yeah.
Yes. So I loved them, and when he came in, he was with a girl, and they were emaciated and strung out and high, and I just was. That happened. Like, I met a lot of people, help them, put them in clothing and stuff like that, and help them pick stuff out. But it happened. Like, so many of my heroes came in, and people that I really admired, and
shot the
half
fuck
of them
out.
were shitty.
Yeah,
never meet your idols.
No, I know.
Oh yeah.
I truly believe that.
Yeah, I've been lucky working at Tower Records in Atlanta. I did meet quite a few people that I will forever, cherish. Meeting Tina Turner was phenomenal.
Oh,
that
wow.
was just amazing.
Yeah.
And not so much like I know all her songs, but it's Tina Turner.
Man. Force of Nature.
Well, the Ike and Tina stuff was on fire, man. That was prime.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, at 19, I didn't know a lot of that stuff. El Condor.
El Condor is visiting the studio.
Orale.
That's his stage name, El Condor.
That's
when he's on the show.
Snags,
say
Silky,
hi.
And El Condor.
Hi,
El Condor.
Say rock and roll. You have to talk louder. They can't project. Okay. El Condor.
El Condor,
everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen.
All right, go ahead.
So you have a Paul Stanley story from Danceteria, I think, right?
I do. Now, I don't know if we were in Danceteria. We may have been. I think we were in Area or maybe Limelight. Okay. So that would have been a little bit later. Right. I don't know, but
probably 83, 84. What do you think?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I just don't know.
All good.
Maybe.
All good.
So my girlfriend, who was my roommate, my friend that was really rubbing elbows with everybody and knew everybody. She was a bartender, so she really got to know people and befriend people and blah blah blah. And she knew all the scoop and Scooby Doo. So we're sitting at the bar, and she pointed him out. I was a huge Kiss fan as a kid, and
nice.
I don't know that I would have recognized him. I don't know. But he was staring at us, and she's like, "Oh my God, that's Paul Stanley." I was, "Shut up!" And he went he gave his finger and told me to come here, and I was terrified. I was like, "Oh, I can't go over there," And she was like, "Go! What are you talking about?"
Oh my God!
So I went, and I don't remember everything he said. He was curious about my tattoo, so it must have been 83 or 84, I guess. So he asked about my tattoo, and I felt like he was kind of flirting with me, and I felt really uncomfortable. Like he was my hero, and I didn't know what to say. I got tongue-tied. I felt like an idiot. I was, 18, it's like, oh
I guarantee he was hitting on you, but everything I've read.
This is the band that when they toured, and this is no lie, they had a separate hotel. They would always rent out an extra hotel room to stash all the chicks in. And
but
after the show,
and so he's like slaying the ladies, but one-on-one, and you're not a groupie at one of his shows, so you're separate from that. And this is the Paul Stanley that Dan Aykroyd stole his girl.
Yeah.
This is the same Paul Stanley that you met, who can't keep, and he even says in his book, how there's like a Christmas Eve or over the Christmas holiday, he's in the hotel. He's Paul Stanley. He's lights, selling out arenas, and he's got no friends. Nobody.
I think that was Gene, actually.
No, it was never Gene.
Yeah, I think that was Paul.
No way, it was Paul.
I remember that story, but I thought it was Gene. But anyways, Paul was a shy kid. He had a fucked up ear up until like probably a little after you met him. He always wore his hair long to cover up the cauliflower ear thing.
And I think that's what made him who you met. This guy is just, genuine, trying to just land some 18-year-old on the line. But
he was very sweet. I did not pick up on any kind of vibe, I mean, I could tell if, there's a vibe. I think he was just genuinely curious about this huge tattoo I had on my arm. Because back then, girls didn't have big skeletons on their body.
Sure.
That just wasn't a thing.
Probably not. Yeah.
So I think the tattoo intrigued him.
The tattoo thing is big with you, actually. When people check out your Google you online after listening to this, or if they already know who you are, they're going to find pictures of you with a lot of badass tattoos. What kind of got you into that? What's the appeal, and how did that start?
Well, I was a very angry youth. And I think, it kind of was part of my rebellion, and it grew into a real love of it. And that's why my body is like 80% covered. But it started out one way, and it kind of organically morphed into this other thing. But initially it was, I had always been fascinated with tattoos. I didn't know girls who had them necessarily, or women growing up. But I don't even know. There was one other girl in our little scene, in our little punk rock scene in New York, that also got a big tattoo around that time. And I'm sure there were other girls that had tattoos. It just wasn't like it is now. It was.
They had a mystique. They had a mystique, and even coming up, I would be 6 years younger than you, Bernadette. Somebody's older brother had a tattoo, and you were like, let's go see it. Like it's a dead body in somebody's basement. Let's go see.
Exactly.
His brother has a tattoo.
Yes, it was a bad thing. It wasn't a good thing. It was a bad thing. You're a bad person,
or they were tough,
Exactly. I think for me, it was part of my bravado, because I was, childhood was crazy, and so I built up a lot of this facade that I was, this tough girl, which of course I really wasn't, but the tattoo was absolutely a part of that. And so the first tattoos, it's a big tattoo along my whole arm, and it's a skeleton wielding a bloody dagger. Nice. And underneath it in Old English, it says, "Hi, Mom." Which I think is fucking hilarious.
I love that. You almost touch on a concept that I believe Snags and I came up with, but Snags will know for sure, and he'll bust it. But your hippies who pretend to be all friendly and nice are actually Manson cut your heart out, throw the unborn baby in a closet.
Arrogant, condescending pricks. Oh, I'm sorry.
Arrogant,
did I jump in there?
Filth. Yeah, just the worst beings on the planet. There will never be a Grateful Dead episode.
Thank you, Lord Jesus. Thank you.
Ever. Oh, but the flip side is your punks are come off heavy. The music's heavy. They might cut you, but deep down, they're all who you want on your side.
For sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's I believe that's our thing. What we coming from hippie parents
Yes.
who should
Yes.
have never met each other.
Should have never bred.
Here we are, you know.
They should have never had
You know,
babies.
like something that's, you swear you clean that pan, and what is that on the bottom of the pan? That's us. You know,
Yeah.
We weren't washed away.
We're the
Yeah.
fungus among us.
That's it. That's it. Anyway, go ahead.
I wanted to make sure we don't miss, while we're in New York in the danceteria era of your fascinating
I know where
journey
you're going.
through life, we've got to hear the Lemmy story.
Yeah. So one night I'm at danceteria. I have a friend. We are roommates. We live downtown on 6th and C. She's a bartender at danceteria. So I'm a regular, I mean, I was like super. The club scene and the bars were where it was at, and the clothing stores and the music. I mean, it was all this big thing. So
Sure.
I would go to danceteria a lot, and she'd be working behind the bar, so I get to drink for free, which is always fun. And everybody was there all the time. So Lemmy was like a regular, I guess. I don't know, but that's come to find out later. She knows him, and he's like, no, you don't want to go there. But he comes up and sits down next to me at the bar, and we're chit-chatting, whatever. He's got to go to the bathroom. He's like, will you save my stool? Yes, I will. So I think I put something like my jacket or something on the stool, and these two tough chicks, like for real, from like down in my neighborhood, came over and they wanted the stool. And I said, well, no, I'm saving it for somebody. And they got in my face about it. And it's long ago. I don't remember all the details, but we got into a fight, and there were two of them and one of me. And I told Snags about this a little bit. I kind of, I wasn't drunk, but I dissociated. So I got into a fight with these girls, and I guess I just was so angry or afraid or whatever that I just kind of left my body in a way. And I was told later that I beat these girls up. I had steel-toe boots on.
Nice.
And you got to have those if you live in New York.
Sure.
And so piecing it all together, the bartenders all knew me, of course, and they took me upstairs because apparently the girls went out to get the police because they wanted to have me arrested, even though they started the fight.
Did you get your jacket back?
What?
Did you get your jacket back?
I did. I did. And my wig. My wig came off. I wore lots of wigs back then.
I hate that. I hate when that happens.
I know.
I think your wig came off, Silky.
No, I got it.
So keep going.
So he either comes back to his stool or I see him on another floor or something, because this was like a big thing, and they literally had to take me to another part of the club to hide me. And I think it was maybe on a different floor, and I saw him, and he's like, oh, what happened to you, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I got in a fight with these girls, and I, not knowing what happened, I was like, I don't know what happened. And he said, well, you should have headbutted them. I was like, oh, okay.
Great.
Meanwhile, I had fought well, I guess, but it was kind of funny. So then we went back to my apartment, and my roommate knew that we left together or whatever, and so she called me at the apartment, and this was the big cockblock. She said, you better get him out of that apartment right now. And so
it's just at this part of the show, the Marvin Gaye music starts, and then the needle across the record.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So it's good, it's a good thing. So I don't have that, say, oh yeah, I slept with Lemmy. Ooh.
She almost met Snaggletooth.
The fight reminds me of the James Brown lyric, I don't know karate, but I know crazy.
I know crazy. Yeah, buddy. sometimes you gotta flip the fuck out.
Yeah. I mean, thank God I did. These girls could have murderized me.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, for real.
Especially in that day and age, you don't have a cell phone. You could have been
No,
bloody from
that's right.
yeah.
One of the guys told me that I kicked a girl in the face.
Nice.
Well, that's kind of hardcore. One of
That's
the
some
bartenders
New
was
York
like, "Oh
shit
my
right
God."
there.
Yeah. Not tonight, bitches. That's what that is.
Yeah, I think it was just a lot of crazy pent up anger, you know,
Sure.
cuckoo crazy anger.
I would say Snags and I both grew up pretty angry because punk rock and metal is the reason that I'm not in jail or, you know,
Totally.
I watch these crazy shows. I had the same childhood that some of these other, serial killers had.
Mall shooters
And I went a different path. And I think there is deep down a crossroads in all of us that you go left or right. And, it's in us to do the right thing, regardless of our environment.
Yeah.
For some of us.
In this case, the right thing was kick that bitch in the face with a steel-toed boot.
Yeah. She brought the news. This just in. Breaking news.
Oh my.
So, any more stories from New York before we move on to other periods?
Oh, I don't. I'm not really. I guess probably a lot, but who knows? It's like a jumble. Yes. I swear to God, sitting down trying to think of stuff. Justin,
what about like the Ramones and CBGBs?
I would hang out at CBGBs.
Oh, you gotta tell us about CBGBs.
So, I mean, did you see like Blondie and Television, and Talking Heads at CBGB?
The Dead Boys, they all shopped in the store.
Really? Wow,
and, that's David Johansen and
Viv Baders and all that.
Viv Baders, everybody, Dee Dee Ramone.
Cool shit.
All the guys, Stephen Sprouse, who was a designer, I guess. We sold, the woman that I worked for, sold Vivienne Westwood stuff. I don't know if you guys know.
I know the name.
Was that the
I don't
chick
know.
that was at the shop in England? She was with the Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
Vivienne Westwood
So we
ran a similar shop in England, and that's where the Sex Pistols. Malcolm McLaren was like her partner.
Leather, all the leather and stuff.
Yeah.
That might be where
Michael Alago was. Yeah.
No, shut up. That might be where KK Downing went in and got the leather in the mid 70s that started the whole movement for Judas Priest.
It could have been.
Could be.
There was a leather.
The people that I worked for, they were amazing. They were designers. They were punk rockers. The store is still in existence. And the woman that I worked for, she's still fucking rocking it. And
that's fantastic.
It really is. It's cool. Like Facebook, as much as I hate Facebook, I also love Facebook because I get to, still be in contact with all these amazing women that, taught me so much.
That's awesome.
Cool.
I wouldn't be alive and thriving if it weren't for all these people.
I mean, there's nothing more attractive than women kicking ass.
That is true. So, after New York, what was the next phase?
After New York, I moved to LA. Mm-hmm. I moved back to Venice. I moved to Hollywood initially, and I moved there. This is something people may or may not know, but there was a company called Lip Service, and they were like one of the first companies to do you remember those leggings that had skull daggers on them? Clothing that it was like a punk rock thing. I don't know. Anyway, we carried his stuff in New York, and he was like, "Oh, you should come design clothes for me." And I was like, "Well, hell yeah, I'll do that." Yeah. So that's why I went to LA. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Faster Pussycat. Yeah. That's a silly band.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Tammy, I needed an apartment, so my friend hooked me up with Tammy Down, who's the singer for Faster Pussycat. And we had an apartment together, and I did all their hair and makeup. So while I'm working in New York, I'm honing my skills, doing stylist work and modeling and hair and makeup and all this stuff. So going from New York, where the glam scene was super cool and fun and interesting, and the people were awesome, going to LA, I'll tell you what, it was like,
Total
the
different
scene,
vibe.
it was
From
such a
Jimmy
different
Page
vibe.
and the
It was so
Ramones to Faster Pussycat.
exactly. So I
Yeah,
mean,
it
Tammy
was a
is,
lot of cocaine and just the glam scene
the
and
glam scene was like these guys dressing up like Barbie
Well,
dolls.
you
I
know,
mean, they
and
just
but
looked
they thought
ridiculous.
they were up here and it was so much more natural in New York.
well,
You know, that's exact.
You
That's
know,
a great way to
you
put
know
it.
where it all came from was the New York Dolls. The New
organic.
York Doll.
Yeah.
It all comes. The seed syllable of all that shit is the New York Dolls. And it's
Yes,
interesting
I would
how
agree.
they inspired two movements that ended up being completely opposite of each other, which is punk rock. Their music inspired punk
Yep.
rock, and their looks
Yeah.
inspired the whole hair metal scene. And you had
Yes. Yeah.
And but the missing link there is like Hanoi Rocks,
I was just
who
gonna say Hanoi Rocks. They used to shop in the
looked,
store.
they looked like the one but sounded like the other,
Yeah.
and they were
they
so
loved
pure.
the New York Dolls, and they loved the Clash.
Yeah.
I read a biography of the bass player from the New York Dolls. I mean, from Hanoi Rocks, and he basically said they wanted to sound like the Clash, and I never thought of that before. Then I went back and started listening to them, and I was like, oh yeah, they do kind of have a Clash kind of sound. But they were
Mhm.
they were the one legit hair metal band, quote unquote. They weren't really part of the hair
Right.
metal scene. They were just another
Right.
band
Yeah.
inspired by Johnny Thunders and the New York Dolls. And they
Right.
hung out with
Right.
these guys when they were in LA, unfortunately for their
Yes.
fucking drummer. Thanks,
Yes.
Vince.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's exactly it. These guys in LA were doing, in my opinion, kind of goofball
Yeah.
music, and they all had the big
Yeah.
hair. Now, I did I did Faster Pussycat's hair and put them in clothes. I had all kinds of stuff, rubber and leather and all kinds of stuff. And I thought they looked very good, because they looked more like authentic New
Right.
York than they did like Guns N' Roses and bullshit
Right.
like that.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
that's just my take. But so, okay, so I moved to LA. I'm in Hollywood. I'm working for lip service for about a minute, and then I started to work at were you raising
Yeah,
your
I was just
finger?
gonna ask, did you meet Hanoi Rocks at all during this time?
Yeah, they came in the store. Yes, I don't know.
Yes.
I met the blonde
Michael
one.
Monroe.
I can't
Michael,
remember.
Yeah,
the
Michael
singer,
Monroe.
Yes,
Michael
yes,
Monroe.
yes.
Yeah.
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 See, I haven't thought about this shit in 100 years. So, so I started work at a store called Nana in LA. They had a place in Santa Monica, and that's where I met Eric. So
Eric who, for our listeners, which are
Eric Avery, yeah, Eric Avery from Jane's Addiction, and we, started dating. It was, we met, and he used to deliver shoes to the store from the warehouse. We imported Doc Martens. I think Nana's was like one of the first stores to import Doc Martens.
Oh, those
besides
are the best shoes. Those were just the best.
Well, so that's how we met. He would deliver shoes to the store, the shop where we sold stuff,
Sure.
and that's how we met. And then we, the rest is history. We dated for years, and a few years until I moved to San Francisco, and we lived in Venice at the Ellison. And so I was around for that beginning, like
the first two albums.
No, the first record they made.
we know that we know that yeah, we know the
Self-titled.
first record, the live album, where they do an awesome cover of Rock and Roll and Sympathy for the Devil, and they meld the two songs together. Fucking phenomenal.
So, so that I was gone by the first one, Nothing Shocking or
That's
whatever
the
it
second
was.
Well, Nothing Shocking was
Yeah.
the second one.
Oh, okay.
The first one is the one you were
I was
around
there
for. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It
So you
was.
were
I
there.
still have a copy of it. It's red vinyl.
Nice. That's probably worth a lot of money.
Could
Probably
be.
is.
You never
So,
know. Yeah.
Don't
So
let that one
so
go.
No.
tell us about this whole thing. So was he in Jane's Addiction when you met him, or was there a point where he goes, "Oh, I met this cat named Perry Farrell, and we're going to start a band"?
They had just met and just started playing together, and Eric's sister Rebecca was dating Steve, and
Okay.
Steve and
Stephen
Dave
Perkins.
were like these little, yeah,
Stephen Perkins.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Dave Navarro. They were these kids that Eric brought in, and so let's see. Eric was still living at the Wilton house with Perry and a bunch of other freaks.
What's the Wilton House?
Wow.
And that's where they all lived.
The
in
name
the
of it?
beginning.
That's what,
It was. Well, I think that was the
oh,
street.
got it. Okay.
I do believe
Yeah.
that was the street, and they had a rehearsal space in the garage, and they had all their gear back there. And so young love, you got to be with that person 24/7.
Right.
I don't remember that, but that's what it
Yeah.
was. It was crazy. We were together all the time.
So were you like
and,
sitting on the
so I
floor
went-
in the garage while Perry's jumping around? Coming down the mountain.
I will say for Perry, he is a really good front man, I
Oh,
think.
yeah.
I mean, for me and my music,
Wait, those
I
first
feel
few
like
albums are
all this,
amazing.
yeah. And I think that I had learned so much from just being on the periphery of all this music.
I always felt Jane's Addiction when you very first heard that first album and bleeding over into Nothing Shocking, they almost tapped into what the Doors
Yeah.
had.
There was a danger to them.
Danger. What is this? This does not sound like anything else. When Snags and I, we were living on Courtney. That's the street where our house was, and we refer to that constantly as Courtney. When we lived there, this amazing guy who's no longer with us, Rob Clayton, came over with this. He's like, "You guys have to hear this band." And I know I would say that Snags and I kind of gave it a chance because it was Rob Clayton holding the record saying, "Check this out."
Yeah.
We were like, okay. And then he puts it on and just said, I was like, I remember literally jaw to the ground.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Jane's Addiction became huge. And, we were going to go see. So the third album had come out, Ritual, De Habitual. And we had seen them once, but they were coming back. And I went, and Snags would not go camp out for tickets. So he's like, "Oh, you just get them, and I'll pay you." So I go. He knew I was pissed off that he didn't come along, and I'm there. And Ticketmaster, they did a lot of funky shit when you're waiting on tickets, and things would the store you're at opens, these other stores are all opening, and people are clamoring to get tickets and stuff. No lie, I get in there and they have one ticket left.
Oh my.
That's the story, anyways.
And so you have listen to him. You have two friends, and it's like, oh what the fuck do I do?
Yeah.
Because I knew he's never going to believe that I like, he's going to think I'm just going to buy one ticket and fuck him. So I felt so guilty. I told him I don't have tickets. And I literally gave my ticket to my neighbor.
Oh my.
And I didn't even go to
Another friend of mine ended up getting me a ticket.
So to this day, I can't really listen to Jane's Addiction.
Yeah.
Another friend of mine ended up getting me a ticket to that show. This was the first reunion tour where Flea played bass because Eric Avery didn't want to do the reunion.
Also, it was the One Hot Minute.
No, that was the Chili Peppers.
That's... Oh, right. Okay, never mind.
This is just a non-album reunion tour before Chris Chaney, before they did Strays and all that. First reunion tour. And another friend of mine ended up getting me a ticket, and I remember telling him, I was like, "I'll see you at the show." He's like, "I swear I don't have a ticket." I was like, "Yeah, sure.
Wow.
I'll
Yeah,
see
it
you
was,
there."
so ugly.
Sure.
Yeah, he didn't believe me, and
Oh
I was
my
just
But
like, "Oh my
anyways,
god!" So to this day, I just they come on, and my
anyways,
Oh.
yeah.
can't. Yeah.
So that's the sob
Anyway,
story. But anyways, I
yeah,
remember when the show we did go to together on the Ritual de la Habitual tour, they come to Center Stage in Atlanta, and
yep, yep,
that was before Lollapalooza or any of that stuff. They had just been caught
yeah,
stealing, became
yeah.
an MTV hit. The buzz was just starting to build. Nothing Shocking was basically this underground classic that was building this kind of underground vibe.
Oh, it was
And
phenomenal.
we go to that show, and that's where the Doors analogy really comes in, because Perry Farrell was
Oh yeah,
working that crowd up to the point where we were about to rip the fucking seats out and burn the building down, and he bring it right to that edge,
yeah.
and we're about to do it, and then he
Yeah,
just mellow everything back down again. And he did that the whole night, just let's
Yeah.
kill everybody, back down.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So it must have been
He's a
cool
great
to kind of
man.
just be hanging out and watching them in a garage
Yeah.
when they're working all
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
shit out.
And the parties they played. So when we were together, they were just starting out. They had just formed, and they would play parties. Like Fishbone would play, and then they would play, and uh, I watched them, kind of slowly, over a couple year period. They got signed to Triple X,
I
which
remember
was
Triple
just
X
this
record.
little couple of
Yeah.
guys. Yeah, they were just guys.
yeah.
They weren't like music people or anything, and they
Thelonious
it just
Thelonious Monk was on Triple X. I'm pretty sure. Remember that? No, Thelonious Monster. Thelonious Monk.
okay. It's like,
I was
what?
like,
Do you remember
what?
Thelonious Monster, the band? Yeah,
Yes.
part of that scene.
No, not really, but
Anyways,
funny.
Yeah. So
John Frusciante was in. Oh, John Frusciante was almost in Thelonious Monster. He was auditioning for them, and the Chili Peppers stole him away when they saw the audition. But anyways, I digress. Keep
Oh,
going. See how we interrupt? It's terrible.
you are
Yeah.
terrible.
So
Let's see. I guess
they'd be
what?
playing the parties, and Fishbone would play.
They were playing parties, and they were just slowing. They were, in a way, it was slow. It seemed, because I don't know, maybe I was young. People are like, "Oh, Jane's Addiction, they just made it." It's like, no, man. They had years of playing parties, and then playing small clubs and bars, and then opening up, like I told you, for Fire Hose, which was, to me, a big
Wow.
deal. It's like, oh my God, you get to
Yeah.
open for
Mike
them.
Watt.
Yeah, they were great.
So they made the record, and Eric was, I don't know, I feel funny kind of talking about it a little bit, because this is his story really more than mine, but he was bummed that Perry insisted that they overdub on that first live record. He felt like it should really be live, and I feel like Eric had a lot more integrity than the rest of the band.
That's why he did what
Mm-hmm.
didn't. That's why
Yeah.
I had to see them with Flea, basically, on the reunion tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the Izzy Stradlin of
Yeah.
Jane's.
There's always that one
Yeah, he
guy
was
who's
very-
just only he'll ride the take the roller coaster to a certain point, and then he's like, all right, I'm good, which is fine. A lot of
Yeah.
bands have that guy.
Yeah.
It's just like
Yeah,
totally
yeah.
cool with the low profile.
Well, it was wild when they got signed to Warner Brothers. It was, I was young. I was a punk rocker that was selling out.
Right.
You know what I mean? You signed to Warner Brothers, you're a
Right.
sellout. And
Mhm.
and I think he felt the same way I did, but he was along for the ride. It was his band,
Right.
with Perry,
Right.
and so he was excited. But I remember going to Warner Brothers, and we met some executive, I don't know who it was, and we're sitting in her office, and there's gold, albums everywhere, and so she's somebody, but I have no idea who. And it kind of made me sick. I just was like, oh, this feels gross, and but he he was excited, which I can understand now, having, I wasn't a musician back then. So I didn't, there were things I just didn't understand. Like now, I might be like, oh yeah, cool, signed to Warner
Right.
Brothers. But, at the time, I was just young, and that felt like selling out.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Sure, sure. You think of Robert Plant's "Long Cool One" being the background for
I
a
remember that.
Coca-Cola commercial,
Right? What the
and we were all
fuck?
like, "What in the blue
Yes.
fuck?"
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
was
Yeah.
Yeah,
furious.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so I get
yeah.
it. I get it.
And it was, the relationship between us was very tumultuous and intense, and um, we did a lot of partying, and it was just, it was chaotic and crazy and fun and wonderful. It was all of that all wrapped up. And when I finally just snapped, I couldn't take, like, I'm a Scorpio and I'm a very jealous person by nature.
Uh-oh.
It's just
Sure.
my trip. I'm better now. I'm 58. I've mellowed out, but at the time, it was really hard to watch this guy that I was dating, who was just a regular old, punk rocker like me, get to this
Mhm.
place where, towards the end, we would be at shows and there'd be girls everywhere and screaming at him, and just, it was too much for me. I couldn't handle
Mhm.
it. So
It was probably a lot for him too.
I'm
That would be
sure.
a very strange situation that you're not used
Yeah.
to.
Oh my
All
God.
of a
I
sudden,
can't even imagine. I really can't.
Um, I mean, since this show has started,
We
Snags
get
and I
mobbed by
both
girls the
are
minute you
just
walk
in.
out on the street. It's amazing.
It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's horrific.
Really. It's
Um,
crazy.
just going to the
Yeah.
gas station, or leave me
I never
alone.
thought,
Yeah.
But, so
Anyway,
eventually you left LA, but before we move on to that next phase, you have any other LA stories?
Oh God, I don't
You don't have
know.
to. You can say no.
I don't, I don't know. There's so many. It's hard to pinpoint stuff. I actually put a little thing on my handy dandy device that I carry with me everywhere, and started writing stuff, little list of
Right.
people and places and things. I mean, that was kind of what happened in LA. Was, I dated Eric, and
Right.
then we split up and I moved to San Francisco.
And so you're
So
in San Francisco, and is this where you had the roommate who used to be friends with the legendary, amazing
yes,
Cliff Burton?
yes, yes. She was my first roommate there.
Hmm.
yeah.
Um, Kim Gomez, she's dead now too.
No,
Practically everybody I know is dead, honestly. And,
mhm.
there's like a handful of us that are still alive.
Most of the people that Snags and I know are married. So really, it's almost the same thing. It's almost the same.
It's a rehearsal for death.
Totally.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
so how did this girl know Cliff, and did she have any stories about him or anything, or like where?
I don't know. I don't know. I lived with her for a little while when I first moved up
Right.
there, and before I got my own place. And the Kirk and Lars used to come. We all worked at Nana's, so Nana's was in LA. They decided to open a store in San Francisco. I went up there and worked there, and so, she worked there. That's how we became friends and
Mhm.
roommates. And she was friends with,
So this is late 80, 87, 88,
yes,
89.
yes.
Yeah.
So they would come into the store, and of course, she introduced me. Oh, this is my mate Bernadette. Blah blah blah. Oh, hey, how's it going? I was amazed at how tiny they are.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, they're short. Lars is very short.
Kirk is
Tiny.
like a little
So many
bug-eyed
people are
Yeah.
elf.
tiny.
You ever see any interviews
What?
with Kirk Hammett? He's like this little bug-eyed elf, sweet-hearted
He
guy.
is tiny. They're so cute. You want to just scoop them up.
And then they get behind their instruments, and it's just like,
And they're fucking
Right.
madmen. Yeah.
Massive. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So, and then from San Francisco, that's when I moved to Savannah, where I met my husband, Justin.
Oh. And Justin went to our high
That's
school.
right.
Yeah, that's how this
That
interview
is
ended up
insane.
happening.
That's right.
I really don't think I ever met Justin.
No.
Then normally someone's name will just jump out, and you're like, "Oh, I know." Yeah. But you
He'll
can't
mention
know
people
everyone
from high school. Hey, you remember some blah 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 blah, and start talking. I'm like, I have no idea who you're talking about, but I'll just take your word for it.
Yeah, I'll say yes for the story. Yeah.
So you're in Savannah for a while. What brought you to Savannah? What were you doing there? You gotta tell the mean waitress story. Gotta hear that part.
Okay. I married a junkie in San Francisco.
Who hasn't?
That sounds like a great 50s exploitation flick. I married a junkie.
Totally, yes.
So you meet a junkie in San Francisco?
Nice.
And you married him?
And
you took him to Savannah to try out? Was that the idea?
Yes.
What made you choose?
That's exactly
what made you choose Savannah?
His dad lived there. I had never been to the South. I didn't know the first thing about the South except seeing Deliverance, and that's what I thought it was going to be like. I was terrified.
Well, you got a pretty mouth, Bernadette.
Like, shit.
Jesus.
I was scared, but
that's a little aggressive. Going straight to Deliverance.
I just didn't know. We didn't have cell phones back then. I didn't have all the information about everything in the world in my hand. So I had no idea. So I ended up in Savannah. He was having heroin shipped to the house I bought with my money
in Savannah.
And
oh my God,
in Savannah from San Francisco, he was having it mailed into him, and I was just like, "Dude, you got to go." I thought we could figure this out, but we can't. So you got to go. And his dad was so sweet. His dad stood up for me and was like, "Yes, we're going to get him out of here. Don't you worry about anything." He was, this is that Southern gentleman thing that I was talking about that I love.
Sure. Yeah. They're real. They
are real. I married one.
Yeah.
And that's how I met Justin. So I was working at Vinnie Van Gogo's. Yeah. Do you guys know that? If you go to Savannah, it's a pizzeria. Okay. And I was working there.
I've been to Savannah, but a long time ago.
Okay. Well, this was a long time ago. This was like 91.
And they had this whole shtick there where they wanted you to be the mean waitress, right? Tell us about
exactly.
that. How did that work? What's a mean waitress experience like for a customer that comes in?
It is fun. It's fun. And people enjoy it, I swear to God. And if they don't, they shouldn't be there. You know what I mean? It was
so this is before Dick's Last Resort with the mean wait staff.
I don't know what this is.
Oh, Dick's Last Resort was a place that you would go in and they would just be so nasty that it was a thing, and they're every one of them closed up because it was like, okay,
too much.
But the story I heard is like people would come in there and you'd be like, what do you want? And you got like 30 seconds. If you can't make up your mind, I'll be back in 10 minutes or something. Like, give us a little spiel.
Yeah. Well, that's what it was like. The guys who started it was just this little teeny tiny shop, and there were like 8 bar stools and a couple of tables inside, and they were getting overwhelmed with customers, which is a very cool problem to have. And so I was working next door as a bartender at Hard Hearted Hannah's, and so they would come in and drink cocktails, and they liked how I handled the bar. I had been bartending in San Francisco at Hamburger Mary's, which was this crazy drag gay fabulous restaurant bar, and that's where I learned how to be tough with customers and not let people walk all over you. So I just brought that to Savannah, and the guys at the pizzeria were like, "Oh man, you need to come and work for us and fucking get these customers under control."
That's great.
Did you ever
need that?
Well,
did you ever kick a customer in the face?
No.
That's a shame. They didn't try to take her seat. See,
no,
there's a
they
difference.
didn't try to take Lemmy's seat.
Lemmy's
That's,
seat.
I mean, you know, if you're defending Lemmy's seat, you got to go
You
all
don't
out.
take. You don't take Lemmy's. You don't take
even
Lemmy's
think
seat.
about,
You know what you get? You get
you
a
don't want
foot
to think
upside
about
your
taking
brain.
Lemmy's seat.
No.
No.
So
Now let's move on.
So you meet Justin there, and then but you didn't stay there. You ended up moving. So,
No, I left and moved to Albuquerque with who was to become my second husband. And we stayed married for a while. He was a really good guy, and you know, I just was a hot mess, and so we were in Albuquerque. I got divorced. I got clean. I started doing music, and Justin in Atlanta, 16 years later, he decides to look me up. It was so
let's see
cute.
if I can find
That is
tattoo chick I met in
fantastic.
Savannah.
He did. He did. He put into Google. He put Bernadette tattoos because he couldn't remember my last
That's
name.
awesome.
Where's that rude
I
waitress?
know that was it. And then the rest was history.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So while
I love
you're in Albuquerque, is that when you joined a band, the Long Goners? That was a rockabilly band, right? Tell us about.
Yeah, I was
in New Mexico.
That was in New Mexico.
So tell us about how you got into that band. What got you into singing and in that band particularly? That seems like that was the beginning of a musical career, right?
Yes, it was. I had decided to get sober when I was about 32, and up until that point, I had very bad stage fright. I had, experiences in life modeling and with ballet and stuff where I had to perform, and I was a wreck and I hated it. So I never pursued music. So I get cleaned up, and I'm cleaned up for a few years, and I thought, fuck it, I'm going to take a voice lesson from a friend of mine who is a singer and a songwriter and had this great rockabilly band, Bovine. And so I took a lesson with him, and then I never followed through. And his band broke up, and he was like, hey, why don't you come and start a band with me? And so I just was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. I don't care, whatever. I've always wanted to do this. I think it'll be fun. I was 35, which is a little late to start out, but
we started me and Brett have a band called Booger Cookie, who very few people. Very few people.
Oh, you need to. Yeah, there's some songs that you should play her.
Mad Shitter.
When you.
Yeah.
Mad Shitter. Mad Shitter will leave you.
I'll send you some links. We only send those to our friends because we're very talent challenged, but they're funny. I'll send you a couple of links after this. But anyways, go ahead. I don't know why I'm talking about our band out of the blue like that.
Yeah, wow.
I'm sure it was relevant
well,
to what
we
you
just
were saying. But
it was cool because Pat Bova, he was the guy in Albuquerque, and Albuquerque had a really cool music scene. The one band I can think of that came out of there that made it was the Shins.
I know that, yeah.
The Shins, yeah.
Anyway, they had a very cool music scene.
Right.
I was super fortunate. Again,
I remember
New Mexico and Arizona too.
Arizona, huge music scene.
I remember why I brought up Booger Cookie because we were 50 something when we got into music. So 35 is you were spring kitten.
Spring kitten, yes.
Yeah. And we shred. Our idea, our first album specifically. I think we've got 7
our
songs.
Our first album is called Led Zeppelin 2. A very original title. But anyways, let's stop.
Yeah, no one's ever
about our shitty music and listen. So
I hope you guys will send me.
I'll totally
link
send you guys some stuff.
Has Justin heard it?
No. I'll send it to you guys.
No.
Is it just the two of you?
Well, here's the deal.
Yeah. Well, it's it's me and a band called the
It all
Craigs.
started. There's a
And
band
you've
called
got
the Craigs.
you've got Craig on bass, drums, and guitar, and so it's the
Right.
three Craigs
So yeah,
and me.
so the Craigs is a band I started with Craig on bass, drums, guitar, and vocals. Started doing some stuff, and then I was like, I got to start a band with Brett. It'd be hilarious. When Brett sings, we'll call it Booger Cookie. So I do backing
Nice.
vocals on Booger Cookie songs, and I do my best to try and play instruments on those. We have a great cover of Super Freak that you
Yeah.
got to hear.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, we did Super Freak and Radioactive by the Firm.
Oh.
We did a Clash song and a ZZ Top, and then we did an original called
Mad Shitter
Mad
is the
Shitter.
penultimate Booger Cookie song. Yeah.
It's
All right, let's stop
really,
talking about our
yeah,
shitty
yeah.
music.
Yeah,
So
anyways, yeah.
you're in this rockabilly band with the main cat in Albuquerque. And am I correct in did I read it right? Is this when you opened for the legendary Hank 3?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Oh,
That was awesome. That was great. I had bartended for years at this bar called the Launchpad, and they brought in all the cool big, kind of underground big acts, like Hank 3, and so Bova had all the hookups because he had this great band Bova before us, so we got to play all this great shit because of him and all his terrific connections. And I had worked at the bar and had been bartending there for years and blah blah blah. So Hank 3, again, I just got to meet him. It wasn't like we got to sit down and have cocktails.
oh, sure.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was super fun we did as our encore, we did a cover of War Pigs. And we're a rockabilly band, so it was very funny. I thought it was hilarious, and I was like, "Oh, Hank 3 is going to see us do this song. How cool is that?"
Yeah.
That's cool.
Oh, I would imagine he just has an aura where you're like, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
Hank," and Hank Senior is. Anytime I hear him, it's exactly, to me, it's exactly like when I hear Lemmy. It is just pure rock and roll, even though Hank was country, but it's just you're channeling into the whitest light that
White
goes
line
all
fever,
the way up.
baby.
Yeah. White line fever. And I mean, next to Robert Johnson, it's really about Hank and Lemmy. Elvis and Chuck Berry. All right,
Keep adding
I'm
to
stopping.
that, but
Go ahead.
don't forget Vanilla Ice. He's in there somewhere.
And the Ramones.
So is this where you meet Joel Peter Witkin, the photographer?
Yes, I met him in New Mexico, in Albuquerque. He lived in the South Valley, and I had just maybe been playing jazz for about a year, I think. And I had just put together my own new band that was mine. And, we were just starting out, and I had met him through friends, and then we kept bumping into each other. So it's one of those universe things, I think, that it was supposed to happen. And it's interesting because when I was 18, or no, I must have been about 20, I was in LA, and he did a photo of my boss's daughter. And that's the first time I had ever seen his work. And I fell in love with it. And he became my favorite photographer. And then, fast forward, whatever, 10, 15 years, whatever, he is, practically my neighbor, and I'm bumping into him, and it's like, what the fuck? This guy is like Picasso or Dali, I mean, to me, that's what he is. And so for him to take an interest in me was super cool. It was like a dream happening, like for real. So he so we bump into each other. One night I was sitting at dinner with a friend of mine and in a restaurant, and he was there with his entourage, and they had this big table in the middle of the restaurant, and he's very dramatic, and he stands up and he looks at me and he says, he knows my name because we've met, and he says, Bernadette Seacrest, I want you to pose for me, like in this restaurant in front of everybody. I was dying.
Yeah, I gotta try that the next time I go to a restaurant.
Stand up. You can have anything you want if you just have the balls.
That's fantastic.
It was very cool. That's a big, for me, posing for him and then getting to have that artwork on an album is like my biggest accomplishment, my thing I'm most proud of, like creatively. Absolutely, 100%.
So to come from a kind of a suicidal tendencies, Jane's Addiction, New York punk scene, to Albuquerque rockabilly, is jazz the next stepping stone? I mean, is that a natural progression to jazz?
Where that came from? Where did that inspiration come from? This whole swing noir thing. What inspired you to go that direction musically?
Honestly, I couldn't deal with the lifestyle. The rockabilly and the punk rock, that's real similar to me, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a lot of drinking and smoking and playing till 3 a.m. and everybody getting fucked up and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And I was sober and I was like, man, I can't, this is challenging. It's not like I felt tempted or anything like that, but it was hard. And I had left that life behind and wasn't terribly interested in it. It was kind of boring or whatever.
Right.
And so I met this guy who became my teacher. He was a real super jazz guy, and he played bass for Frank Zappa for like 8 years.
Yeah.
And, yeah, right? I mean, what the fuck? Where do these people come from? And how do I get to meet them?
Gump.
Yeah, this is
on the show.
The badass fat dude chick version of
Bernadette
we got here.
Yeah. Bernadette Gump.
So you meet the bass player for Frank Zappa, and tell us how what happened.
Well, I told him that I was interested in, learning about jazz. I didn't know anything about jazz other than Billie Holiday and Louis Armstrong and the 30s swing stuff, and the, I wasn't a jazz person at all. I mean, I really wasn't. So he taught me everything. He was a teacher. I mean, he was a jazz guy. He played jazz. He played with everybody. It's totally different. The jazz stuff is way different than the rock stuff. It's like these guys.
Well, you have Buddy Rich and some of these just insane cats. Ornette Coleman comes to mind. Just awesome. That chaos, and then stop on a note, and you have heavy metal bands that do that
Greg
every
Ginn
night.
Has been compared to Ornette Coleman. What is his atonal guitar playing stuff?
But I would say, and I'll relate this to singing for Booger Cookie.
Let's loop this around to the genius band Booger Cookie. Ornette Coleman, Greg Ginn, Booger Cookie.
Booger Cookie. No, and you might weigh in on this, Bernadette. When you start singing, the vocal talent, the band almost decides the style of music. If the Craigs were any more brilliant than they are, it might be a different band. If my singing was better, it might be but because it's what it is, organically we would create something. And Craig the singer, not the bass player, Craig the singer would weigh in like, well, this will be like a jangle, kind of rough. And I said, no, that's the style of
Mhm.
the
We
band.
called it
And regardless of
ramshackle
how
rock.
good
That's
or
our justification for
garbled,
not having.
Oh, I like
that's
that.
what we would always
Ramshackle
You don't
rock.
have any talent if you
ramshackle
That's
call it
rock.
awesome.
ramshackle rock.
But I took it as
Oh yeah,
him kind
no.
of putting
And
it
it was brilliant
down,
stuff.
and I'm like, no, this is a its own style where people would come to like any band that we all think is brilliant and go, oh my God, the Misfits are so mysterious, and how do they have that raw sound? It's because they don't know what the hell they're not good, so you have to leave it, let it grow into
Mhm.
whatever it
Mhm.
grows into. So I in a convoluted left angle, I'm saying that's what that you came into jazz because that was what
Right.
you could
Yes.
reach,
Totally. 100%.
Okay,
You got it.
cool.
I mean, it was just like this natural progression, and things just unfolded the way that they did. And I was really fortunate to always play with amazing musicians. And, I had input, of course, but, for me, it was really about just everybody doing their thing and how it clicked and worked together and how the chemistry,
Mhm.
like I
Now, are there more albums than what is
I've got the rundown.
on
I'm gonna ask her about each one.
Spotify currently?
Yeah, there's more
Yeah,
than
go
is
ahead.
on Spotify. So I just want to go in order. And if I miss anything, Bernadette, let me know. But I just want to talk about each release. So the first album is No More Music by the Suckers, which you mentioned is a line you cribbed off of Public Enemy. Tell us about that. That came out in
uh-huh.
2003.
That was my first CD. It wasn't a record, it was a CD. And the thing that back then, and I don't know because I wasn't a musician for very long before we made that.
Mhm.
To me, it seemed like what a fucking huge thing it would be to be able to make a CD. And I don't recall a lot of people doing it. Now you can do it, off your
Right,
computer at home,
right,
which is
Sure,
fucking
sure.
amazing and awesome. But, back then it's like you had to have your shit together to a
right.
degree to make something cool happen. And so my bass player had a home studio, and he was fucking brilliant. Michael Grimes, this is a different bass
Mhm.
player now. He started a label just so that we could make this record, and I fucking used all my credit cards to do whatever I could to pay for whatever I could, and we were able to put out the CD. And I just remember being really super thrilled. I mean, this band, was my first real band. And these guys, they were wonderful. I found them. I was in Albuquerque, walking down the street one night after, I don't know, a show or something, and they were busking on the street in front of this little,
Mm.
store, and they were fucking awesome. I couldn't believe it. And this is when I have bipolar too, so I was really manic. I wasn't medicated yet. So I just walked up to them and was
Mhm.
like, "Hey, do you guys want to be my band?" I mean, literally, that's how,
That's
fucking
That's
insane I was. Yeah.
hilarious.
And they, I'm sure they were like, who the fuck is this chick? And so I took Michael's
Mhm.
number and we ended up talking. And so we decided to play together, and it was amazing. And we got to put this record together, and then we got to tour, and I did all this. I was so manic. So I know you guys understand this. Not everybody does, but I was like, I thought I was Ella Fitzgerald or some shit. And I bought the
Mhm.
van, I booked the tour, I went to AAA and got the triptychs so that we could find all the clubs we were going to play. And I got a MySpace, and I fucking, all the shows we played were packed. All in the Southwest and
That's
California and
fantastic.
Seattle and blah, blah, blah. I mean, that took everything I had to make the CD and to do the tour and to, merchandise. You guys are very good
A
about
lot.
your merchandise.
We're
That's
second
where you
only
got to
to Kiss
get
and Star Wars when it comes to merch.
Yeah, we don't have action
Yeah,
figures
Snags and
yet,
Silky bobbleheads up there. Yeah.
All right.
it would be like rock and
Oh
sock 'em robots.
yes,
So
yes.
you know,
So you did it.
So,
So
yeah.
you did some extensive touring off that first album. You got any road stories?
Oh goodness. We, not really. I swear to God, I'm such a snorer. I'm really go to bed right after the
so
show.
not like rooms full of
No, maybe the
whores
boys
and
did that.
coke.
Although this is the thing between the jazz guys and the rockabilly guys. The rockabilly guys would have lots of fun, and the jazz guys, they were just a little more low key.
It's
So
back to the whole story
couple of
about
drinks and
Kiss when
see you tomorrow.
they would have a separate room just for groupies. After the show, they come and they just.
He
do.
has to mention this band every
it's
episode.
relevant to what she's saying if you let me finish. And when they so after the show,
right.
they come and just grab some groupies out of the room that the roadies had filled up with groupies in the groupie room. Meanwhile, Rush, who was opening for them, on some of those tours, they go back to their room and read books. So Rush was like the jazz guy.
They're reading Ayn Rand and writing.
Wishing Ace Frehley would stop banging the headboard against the wall on the other. I'm trying to read my Ayn Rand here.
Yeah. I'm reading Atlas Shrugged, you bastard.
So all right, cool. So you see, and the music on that album, would you say that's the beginning of swing noir? I love that term, so I'm just gonna keep bringing it up. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then we did the second record. I really wanted, like, you guys, I think I know that you totally get this, but like with Jane's Addiction, seeing them live and hearing their record, it's two totally different things. Them live, fucking amazing, and their record was fine, but it was nothing like seeing the real deal.
No, it's like the Ramones and some of their albums. You're like,
yes, you see them live, and it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You can't capture that. And I didn't know that when we made our second record. I didn't know because I wasn't a musician really. I had only been doing it for a little bit. I didn't know that I couldn't capture. I wanted to capture the excitement and the energy and all the shit from a live show. I thought, oh well, we'll just make a live record. And
well, it's when I heard Jezebel, I was like picturing just a blue blue light down on a piano and you in some crazy white dress all shiny sparkly, just laying that heavy the rabbit on who framed Roger Rabbit. You know what I'm saying? Just, who? Jessica. Yeah. Just laying that vibe down. It was such a great cover of that.
That is my favorite to this day, and I think this happens every time I make a record. The record that I'm making is my favorite record, and to this day, that is my favorite recording of myself ever, of everything I've ever done.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Got a raw edge to it
like
that really rocks.
I hear. Oh, like you hear that, and I like the way you say Jezebel in it. But I hear that, I immediately thought of the Reverend Horton Heat. I'm like, wait a minute, that's Frankie Lane. And then I almost want to hear you do
well,
Fever.
you got to get the second record, and you can.
So is the second record live in Santa Fe? All right, so tell us more about that.
Well, so the whole idea was to, capture the magic. And it was, Justin, of course, loves all my records.
Right.
And he's very sweet. And I believe he genuinely does. But that record, to me, is kind of, I didn't ever reprint it. We sold all of them, and I never reprinted them, which is what I've done with all my other.
And you don't have a copy of it, or?
I have no idea where it is, or if it's on the internet.
That's the crime.
You thought you were going to capture this amazing live vibe, and it was just another record, and that kind of you were a little bit disappointed.
So I was disappointed, yeah. Then the
Yeah.
third one was the Filthy South.
Filthy South session. So is this after the move to Atlanta, I'm assuming? All
Yes.
right. So hip us to how that went down.
That I moved to Atlanta to be with Justin, and I put together this band. I got to meet this great guy, Charles Williams, who does Bonaventure Quartet with Amy Pike, who used to be in the Continentals. So I don't know if you guys know any of these bands, but they're Atlanta. Yeah, they're Atlanta folks. So so Charles and I and Chris made our band, Bernadette, Seacrest, and the Provocateurs. And we made that record, and that was a fun experience. You know, the Charles was the musical director, is what he liked to be called. And so, you know, it was all his songs. The whole record, I think, was all his songs, which is, you know, to me, really impressive, you know, because I always throw in standards, you know, because, you know, whatever, because that's what I do. But he was able to put this huge body of work together, in my opinion, felt like one. And it was a completely different vibe, you know, for me. New people, new place, everything was new, and it was a lot of fun. We toured over in France a couple of times with that record, and so that was a fun.
Are you big in France?
I am.
That's awesome.
I was. I'm not big anywhere anymore. I'm like just live under a rock, but for a while, yes.
Your legend lives on, though. That's what's important.
I love that.
There's going to be a huge influx of fans now that you've done our show. So,
well, that's the only reason I wanted to do
it's going to be chicks coming up to you at the gas station. You're going to go, what the hell
Can
is
you
happening?
Get us some of them bootleg booger cookie files.
Yeah, that'll be it. BC for the people is the shirt we were going to design. The fist and BC.
I'll send
for the
you.
People.
We have a Ramones album cover. The cover for Led Zeppelin 2 is, of course, a picture of the Ramones, and 3 of them have my head on them, and Joey Ramone has. I'll send all that stuff. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's so punk. It's just you can't get any punker.
So you do the Filthy South sessions. How did the France tour happen? Like, you don't just randomly tour France. Was there some kind of connection there, or did you just randomly?
Well, there's a story. No, when I was in New Mexico, that's the first time I got to go to France with the Yes Men, with my first jazz band, and it's so bizarre and doesn't sound real, but I swear to God, somebody was interviewing me for, I don't know, something, and I said out loud that I wanted to play in Paris on my 40th birthday.
Right.
Swear to God. And within, I don't know, a short amount of time, this guy emailed me from France. He was like, "Oh, you know, I love your music, blah, 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 blah." And I saw that he was French or whatever. And I typed back, I said, "Oh, well, you know, you love my music. I love France."
Let's make something happen.
Yeah, that's what happened. Awesome. He said, "I'm a manager." He managed punk rock bands. And he was like, "Well, we should have you over." And I was, you know, I was crazy. I was like, "Fuck yeah, let's go." You know, I had no idea. Right. No idea. So we were going to go to France 3 years ago when the lockdown happened, the day that we had already checked our bags in, everything. And then the fucking hammer came down and they said, "You can't leave the country." That was the day we were supposed to leave to go on tour 3 years ago.
So it was like
this past March of 3 years later, he's like, "We should do it again." And I couldn't because of I have health stuff. So I couldn't, which was very, 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 very sad. But it would have been, you know, I just would have loved to have gone again.
I went to,
and you know,
I went to.
always have Paris.
Yeah, you'll always have.
We'll always have Paris.
I'll always
Yeah, yeah.
support.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Casablanca,
I
come
went to. One thing I remember from going to France, I went to France once, was
Mhm.
everything is booze. Well, first of all, you're in the subway station and the shampoo ad is some topless chick. I was like, bonus.
Woo!
You know, and you're buying that shampoo by the case. So you don't even have hair.
Sex sells.
But
So, but the other
it's
thing is, I remember is that
yeah.
everything is everywhere they got booze. You go to a sandwich shop, a deli, they got wine. You go to a chocolate shop to get chocolate, they got wine.
Beer.
I remember there was a street vendor selling crepes, and they had like chocolate crepe. I don't know, meringue, lemon meringue crepe, and rum crepe. I was like, oh, let's see what a rum crepe tastes like. He pulls out a crepe and a
It's
bottle
like
of rum
rum.
and just douses it with
Exactly.
rum crepe.
Totally.
Jesus Christ.
Anyways,
Yeah.
so
That's aggressive.
So so you do the France tour, and then there's a little bit of time to that was 2007, the Filthy South sessions, and then it's 2016 until the next album. So you took a little bit of time off there, or were you still playing and just not recording?
Not really. I mean, I would play like once every 6 months, or and then I took a couple years off, and I've had stupid health stuff. It's just ridiculous. But
yeah.
We all
That
do.
sucks.
He hit 50 and it's all over, man.
Downhill from there.
Yeah, buddy.
So
So
Lust and Madness. How did that project start coming together? The 2016 album.
So I wanted to work with Chris again, and I just love him. He's like my brother. He's like my rock, my musical
director,
guy that I.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a different one, but yes,
right.
He's just, you gotta have him. So he and I decided to just start doing some music, and I wanted to record some of my old songs, my old rockabilly songs that I did with Pat Bova. So we brought those in, and we put some standards in there. And do you guys know Mike Dyer?
Is that the album with Pretty Bottles?
Pat Bova wrote that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mike Dyer.
Okay.
Mike Dyer,
great.
the King Size. Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah,
he
I know
recorded with me. We did a version of Frank Sinatra and Elvis Presley did "Love Me Tender" in Witchcraft.
Yeah. Yeah, I caught that, and Snags will back me up. I was gonna add that in 1960, Elvis is on that Frank Sinatra Timex show, and his first appearance right out of the army, and Elvis sings "Stuck on You" in Fame and Fortune, and then does that duet with Frank. So when I saw you were doing "Love Me Tender," I thought you were gonna come in real low, and as soon as you start, I'm like, oh. And then he comes in. I'm like, oh my God, nobody knows that cover. I mean, that's great. It was
you did that. Really fun. I had to kind of talk him into it a little bit. He was, I don't know that he was really on the fence, but he wanted to hear why I wanted to do it. And, it's like, it's magic. You got to do it. And
yeah. How did you even know that version of that?
Well, I've seen the YouTube video, where they do it together, and it's amazing. Hey,
yeah. I just don't think of a lot of people knowing that even happened. In this day.
Yeah. I'm gonna walk. I'm gonna walk.
Very cool.
Yeah,
you're not gonna go and do what happened in the comic books.
Mute the microphone.
I'm just going to move into a different.
Our comic book episode will be.
Well, we're a little gun shy when the guest starts walking.
We've seen this before, and it didn't end well.
Yeah. Avert your eyes, Snags.
The baby's been in the crate the whole time. She peed all over my goddamn bed.
They have these little two dogs that are smaller than my cat. little mini dogs.
They're tiny. They're so
Oh,
cute.
jeez. Small
Yeah.
nice.
So anyway, so he did a song with me on that record, and then Francine Reed. Do you guys know who she is?
I know she's like a blues guitarist,
singer,
right?
jazz singer. She
Singer.
she
Okay.
sings with Lyle
Yeah.
Lovett in his large big band or whatever it's
Yes.
called. Yeah, so
That's
she's
it.
a fucking
Yeah.
badass, and she's another one who, when I got to Atlanta,
yeah.
she is another one that took me under her wing, and would come to all my shows.
Wow.
She'd hop up on stage with me. We'd sing together. We were knitting buddies. All kinds of shit. So she did Sermonette with me on that record, which was very special. So
That's cool.
So yeah.
So I got the whole rundown on the Frank Sinatra Elvis Presley thing while we were waiting for you to come on. He's like, "Oh my God, she did the combination duet version of blah 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 blah." I was like, "Dude, save it for the podcast."
Ah, yeah.
He was like,
she beat me to it. She beat me to it. I made a playlist for this episode called "Don't Fuck Around," and the last song is "Strange Fruit." And when I heard Jezebel, my brain just went to all these different Torch Song singers, and I was like, God, she should do Billie Holiday. And to me, her big, the song I always go to is "Strange Fruit," but I mean, she's got "My Embraceable You" and just so many. But that "Strange Fruit" is just so good. I made that the last song on the whole thing.
My version of it or her?
Yeah, your version.
Put Billie Holiday on your place. She doesn't deserve to be anywhere near your
for your playlist.
Come on.
Yeah. With the thought that somebody would hear "Strange Fruit" and just start the whole playlist right back, go right back through.
Cool. I didn't realize you did a playlist. That's very
good.
Yeah, every episode that has music will have some playlist on the website, so that if, say, somebody hears this and goes, "Man, I got to check her out," they're going to go to the website and be able to actually go straight to.
There will be a Bernadette playlist on the website.
So that's the idea.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And we titled it "Don't Fuck Around." After your don't fuck around with
and apparently don't fuck around with Bernadette, or she'll kick you in the face with a steel toe.
Yeah. Size 7.5 upside your
the latest album, and I think this was was "My Love Is that an EP? That's the EP, right? With Jezebel on it. So tell us how that came together. That was obviously inspired.
Yeah.
That we did that during the lockdown. We I had always wanted to do Jezebel. I wasn't
Are you familiar with Reverend Horton Heat's version?
There's a bunch of versions out there. And, of course, I'd listen to all of them.
Oh, yeah.
Take, what's her name? Anna Cavalli or something like that. Anyway, she's got a rockin' version of it, too. And, of course, Desi Arnaz and all kinds of good people do it.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, I had always wanted to record Jezebel. I just, there are songs that you play that are deep in your guts and your soul, and that's I feel like all my songs are like that. I mean, whatever, I guess everybody's going to say that, but it really is true. And
well, I think if you're going to sing a song honestly from your gut, you make it your own. You don't just do the words. You have to take on a character of that song, and that's the performance. When you put that on like a mask, and if you're going to do it right,
yeah, I agree.
That's what I
totally
think. But.
So that and "My Love Is," that song just always killed me. You talk about Fever. It's the same guy who wrote Fever that did "My Love Is," so that's why they kind of sound similar.
That's great. Yeah. Maybe that's when I thought they should do Fever. not knowing
And
that
then
that's okay.
Vampire,
Vampire a
is
cover?
a fucking brilliant song that Pat Bova wrote 100 years ago, and they used to play it.
Okay, because I
Only by
swear I've
me.
heard it. You know, when you okay, so it's
Via
yours
Pat Bova,
because it jumped out like have I
Isn't
heard
that
this
a great
before? I guess
song?
not, but that's
I always wanted to record that song
yeah.
too, and I wasn't sure how he felt about it because it was a song that was
Uh,
his song, like it was one that he always played with
mhm,
Bovine and his first band. And
mhm,
so I asked him, I was like, I'd really love to do this song and have it on this EP, and I'd love for you to play guitar on it. So I've been doing music with this guy for over
mhm.
20 years. He's the one who got me into music and got me started. And 20 some odd years later, I get to be on a record with him because of the stupid lockdown
That's so
bullshit.
cool.
And he's in New Mexico, and the
Mhm,
guys are here in Atlanta, and they're recording their shit in their recording studios, and he's recording in his. And we put it all together and make this fantastic thing. And then Joel, I wasn't going to make a record, but Joel fucking agreed to let me use his artwork, and I was like, "Oh hell, I got
Gotta
to make a
make it
12 inch.
out.
I don't
Yeah,
care."
gotta make something to put this on.
Yeah, yeah,
so do
So
it,
that
yeah.
one was
yeah.
inspired from
That's
top
so
to
cool.
bottom because you got the killer cover and then album cover and then all these songs
Yeah,
you were obviously very
yeah,
passionate about, and it comes through in the performance. So,
yeah, yeah,
badass.
yeah, yeah. Yay.
Yeah. So where can people find you online?
I don't know. I think that some stuff is on everything, like on Amazon and Spotify and Pandora and
Mm.
all that CD Baby.
We'll search around
I
and
don't,
see if what we can find
yeah.
and link. But as far as just your presence online,
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
any
yeah.
websites
It's
you have currently and
BernadetteSeacrest.com. It's a
like that?
really old website. I do kind of keep up with it. We have you can buy all the records directly from me on using the PayPal, you know. CD Baby.
Okay. Even the second
No,
one
that
that you
one I don't
said's
have any
gone,
of
you
those.
have it
Those are
digitally?
gone.
you didn't
But
like that one,
um,
Silky.
I know, isn't
Yeah,
that terrible? I shouldn't say that
Oh, well. See, now when I
yeah.
start collecting,
about.
I like have to have everything, and
If if you want to get
I'm always
rich,
down
just
for the
create a
challenge of
box set
tracking.
and let Brett know about it.
Yeah.
Bernadette
Okay.
Seacrest
Oh my
remastered
God,
all in one
it's
box set
just
with a
terrible.
poster and a T-shirt.
This one has a plastic snake. It has
He's
nothing to
got
do
to
with the
get it for
record
the
or the
plastic
band, but
snake.
there's a
Yeah,
plastic snake in it.
yeah.
Fucking
All right.
horrible. But,
So well, it's been awesome having you on the show. It was.
Thank you guys so much. This was so much fun. I was a little bit nervous. I thought, oh God, this kind of shit can go bad. And you guys are
Well,
awesome. I
oh
we're
yeah,
love
no,
trained
you two are
professionals, so you have
we
wonderful.
nothing to
keep
worry
it
about.
going.
Yeah.
We are. I think Snags and I could have Mick Jagger on the
And
show,
talk
and we
about
would
Booger
interrupt
Cookie
him
and
and
bring up Kiss.
talk about Booger Cookie and something that's really important to us while he's in the middle of the
Right.
beggars banquet sessions and describing something. Look, Mick, just a minute.
Yeah,
Snags has a great story.
Silky wants to make an
So
analogy.
anyway, that's
Yeah.
how we roll. It's our show, damn
It
it.
is your show. You guys are
You know?
great, man. You're hilarious. And you're warm and wonderful and very I don't know. I feel a good vibe, and I don't feel like you guys are out to get me. Sometimes you get interviewed and people are like, "Ooh, they just want to fucking
Yeah.
get you."
Oh,
Yeah, they got some bitter news and they can't wait
Yes.
to drop
No,
it to
that's
see
fucked
your
I
up.
reaction. And I said early on, that I feel, and I know Snags is because we've created this. You're now our 33rd episode. That we set out to just have a conversation, because this all came from all the crazy phone calls that me and him still have, and we go, oh, we got to make that a show. You know, so it's all about just those good conversations. You get off the phone, you're like, man, that was,
You've
and that's
achieved
what
it.
we
You
strive
totally
for
have.
with each.
It is.
That's
It's
fantastic.
I accidentally deleted all my gotcha questions. I was gonna nail you to the wall. According
What
to the
about that
National
time?
Enquirer.
Jeez.
All right. Well, this has been awesome. Why don't
Yeah.
you stick around for some post-show wrap-up? We'll say goodbye to the legions of fans out there, skullheads around the
Buy
world.
Legions of fans. Buy the merchandise.
Yeah. We have
Slovenia,
listeners
keep
from
it
like
real.
10 different
Keep it real in
countries. It's amazing.
Slovenia.
So,
Right
yeah.
on.
So all you cats, don't fret. We'll be back with another killer episode next week. And until then, keep it cool.